students out there. I just want to welcome you to our first SolidWorks installment here. This one's entitled Intro to SolidWorks and 2D Sketching. I'm going to take you through a few things here, not too much. We're going to introduce you to this main home screen right here. We're using the latest version of SolidWorks. That's the CAD design software, computer-aided design software we use here on Breakaway. There's others, Autodesk Inventor and other similar CAD design software. Something that I did notice is that as I've worked with several different CAD softwares, they all seem to carry the same tendencies, just like programming languages. So if you learn SolidWorks here, it could be a good carryover into Autodesk Inventor, for example. We're also going to take you through resources online. There's several very good resources online that can help you with things in supplement to this, or maybe you'll find something that you like better. We'll go through that as well, and we'll do some sketching. We'll open up a two-dimensional sketch, and we'll go through some of the key features in a 2D sketch, and we'll elaborate on in later videos. But on this one, I just want to kind of get your feet wet and get you excited about what SolidWorks has to offer. So we're going to begin here. Let's look first at some resources online. If you notice here, SolidWorks actually offers first specific items like Lego tutorials. So, for those who have actually worked with some Lego CAD software, on our FLL team, we work with what we call LDD, Lego Digital Designer. They have their own kind of CAD software. Well, SolidWorks and some other libraries that you can download online actually have the parts for you where you could build it right there in SolidWorks. I've had some of my students work on that, but we're actually going to deal with these robotics tutorials. So we'll click on the tutorials, and what you're going to notice here as it comes up is you've got units, the intro to SolidWorks, the building apart, the assembly, chassis, and so on. This is actually based on the game in 2010 called Breakaway, where robots were designed to kick soccer balls into two of their goals on each side of the field. This was a specific design. I don't remember or know what team this was for, but they do a really good job. In fact, if you click on one of the units here, this Intro to SolidWorks unit, it breaks it down into 3, plus you have a zipped file of all the parts made for either reference or use in these sections. So it's really nice. Let me go back and let you see the web address here. So let me pause for a second. There's your web address. You can copy that down or use that as well. You can search for it in your Google search engine with SolidWorks tutorials FRC, and you can get through it through there as well. All right. Okay, well, this is one resource I've used in the past in my Intro to Robotics class. I have some of these online for students to go into reference as needed as well. There's other things out there. There's some YouTube videos. Now, these don't cover everything, so if you need some help, YouTube's always a great site. And there's other teams who have posted things as well. Okay, so now let's dive into SolidWorks. If you didn't know this, your team mentor or lead can actually apply to SolidWorks for their sponsorship, and SolidWorks or DDS sponsors within their company with the disc, and they'll give you a certain amount of seats for whatever you need for your team. So they can give you up to however many seats you need, and they expect you to use this for student enhancement, that they can take home a copy, so you can actually get your own copy of SolidWorks. Autodesk Inventor, anyone who has a student's email address can actually get anything Autodesk has to offer, AutoCAD, anything like that, and so on. So these companies have done a great job of opening this up for us. So we're going to go ahead and begin here. We're going to look at just kind of the front panel here as you're coming in, what there is to offer, and what we can use. Something that's really nice, and I'm broadcasting from a dual screen here, is you can actually open it up at this section if you've got an extended desktop, and you can break it into both sides. Now, I don't think it's as useful through here, but some people like the wider screen. So that feature here, if you're noticing my screen, that feature here only shows up when you're on extended desktop. Okay, let's look at some of these tabs here on the side. The top one is one I'm really going to reference right now. That's your resources. So if I click on that tab, it's going to open up a lot of stuff here. We've got our new document. That's self-explanatory. Open a document, instructors curriculum. But here is another great resource for you. They're tutorials. If I click on the tutorials, it's going to open up a large list of different lessons to go through. In fact, it even helps you with your preparation if you want to be certified within this. Click on that first set and you can see some of the things that you can go through. Now, I know for you out there who are a different kind of learner, these are written. They don't show you, but something they don't show you through a video, but something that's nice. Let me show you something that's really cool here. Get to a button. Well, as you notice, there are no videos. It just kind of takes you through here. And then it will show you your final model and so on. So let's go back. Let's get back to the main. I didn't see one there. There we go. And then you can go on through things like this. Motion studies, very important for some of the things we do in FRC. We'll talk about those a while from now. Assembly mates, very important, very important. There's a XY bed for either it looks like a mill. Okay, and you can just exit out of that and then your screen will re-enlarge. So some really cool things there. The search engine's always great if you need any help. We won't get into any of these other tabs right now, but we will get there soon. So that's the main tab I want us to focus on, is this resource where you can go to your tutorials. Let's open up a new part. So I'm going to go over here, and something that I do want to tell you is don't overlook the drop down arrow. That's going to come up a lot through my tutorials. Here there's not a lot, only the same option that was given to you before, but always pay attention to that drop down arrow. You'll notice you got three things here when you open up or try to open up something new. You get part, you get assembly, and you get drawing. We will go through all three of these, but right now we're just going to look at one single part that we're working through. Once again, here's tutorials as well if you want to pop into a tutorial, but we're going to start with parts. So I'm going to click part and OK. Now, Solidworks is a pretty stable environment. I have almost 1,000 hours logged within Solidworks over the past 3 years. Pretty stable. I haven't had it crash much. Usually, the crashes are due to my computers that I'm running it on, but Solidworks uses a lot of your local memory. So make sure to always save. That's something I tell my students all the time. Save, 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 save. Okay, so we've opened up our part. You're going to notice something. Yours may be different than mine. I kind of have some presets on here. We do want to go down here first. So let me zoom in on that for you. Right down here, I'm moving to the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Let me stay on this desktop. This is what unit you're in. Okay, so you've got millimeter, grams, second. I've defaulted to inch, pounds, second. That's what I work out of. That's what all our machines in the shop are set to. They're in inches, thousandths of an inch. So we want to make sure we work in inch, pound, square. But if you do want to change it, you can. Now, something that's nice about SolidWorks, if you change it midway through, it doesn't take a 12 millimeter and make it a 12 inch. It will convert the millimeter into inch. So that's really cool. You don't have to go back and change anything as expected. So let's zoom back out of that. I'm going to make sure mine's in inch, pounds, seconds. You can change that at any time, depending on what your shop runs out of. You know, when I hand this drawing to one of my kids, they're going to want it in inch, pounds, seconds. So, okay, now over here, you're going to see the ribbons. These are what I call my ribbons: my features ribbon, my sketch ribbon, my evaluate, dim expert, render tools. Now, you may not have render tools. I've enabled mine, and then office products. So we're going to start with the sketch first. We won't worry about the features just yet. Notice there's a lot of options out for right now. Let me get rid of this guy. You probably don't have that. Oop. lines. There it is. Okay. So now mine looks very similar to yours. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to put a sketch in. Now, what you don't see is the environment to which you're sketching on. Now, yours may pop it up, but mine's been set to turn it off. But there's my front panel, plane, there's my top plane, and there's my right plane. So there's your 3 planes set up in your 3-dimensional coordinate system. It doesn't matter which ones you sketch on, but I do want to give you a heads up. If you're running a CNC mill and you're going to run this through either Mastercam or some other program that's going to write your code for you to put it on a CNC machine, it would be smart to know what plane is the plane that works for your machine. With our Herco, we have a CNC 3-axis Herco. It's the front plane. So we write everything onto the front plane. Now we can change the planes either in Solidworks or in Mastercam. We usually change it in Mastercam. It just makes it easier for getting all the tool paths and everything if we write it in the correct plane. So here I'll go with the top plane for right now. It's always good to start on top. So I'm going to select the top plane. Now notice there are some hover options that come up, and one of them is sketch. So there's multiple ways to get into sketch, but you have to select a plane first. Now if I didn't select a plane and I hit sketch, it's going to tell me select a plane, and those will pop up for you now. So you notice your planes are visible within your main screen. Or you can just simply select it before you start. So I'm going to select it before I start. It's just a habit. I hit sketch and it lines it up. Now if it doesn't, if it won't line it up for you, you can go up here and hit perpendicular too. That's your view option. So I can actually change it. I don't want to right now. We'll mainly work with these view orientations when we get into three-dimensional shapes. But for right now, we're just going to deal with our just our normal 2 view. So I went there, or you can right click within it when we have something drawn and hit normal 2. So now I'm in my plane, I'm in my top plane. Notice it's my XZ plane. That's something to notice too as well. We're going to get into 3D sketches coming up, and it's always good to know what plane is which and how to move through them. It gets pretty tricky in 3D. So let's just start up here. Now notice I've got several options for different figures that I can draw. Let's start with our very first one, a line. Now I'm not going to hit the drop down arrow just yet. I'm just going to select my single line, and notice over here in my feature property manager tab that I have, these are my options: orient, as sketched, horizontal, vertical, angle. You can do lots of different things. That's some good practice and exploration for you, but I always do as sketched. So I'm going to start the origin, and I want y'all to take it with me to the left. Now notice these are called snaps or locks, depending on how much work you've had and with what program. But I can create it to be either it will snap to or snap into vertical, and it will snap horizontal. That's very useful, especially when you're dealing with a system that can be so out of line. So I've got let's snap it to the left like this. Okay, now notice I clicked once with my left mouse button and it's still creating a chain. So let's continue with that chain. I'll go here, all the way down, it snapped to, and I'll snap all the way back up, and I've created my triangle. Now it stopped itself. When you complete a chain, it automatically stops. If you want more, you can just re-click and go on. Now, for example, let's say you messed up and you didn't want to do something, you didn't want to continue the chain. Well, you can hit Control Z. Well, it usually worked. Let's just do it the old way. Let's do a trim entries here. So I hit trim entries, which is up there in your sketch ribbon as well, and I can just trim off what I don't want. Now let's do that again. Take you through it again. Let's go to my left, and let's say I just wanted one line to the left. I'll double click after I make my point, and there you go. There's your one. So if you want just one, if you want to continue, just click back in. They'll snap to, and there's our triangle. So let's start with that triangle here. We're going to work a few things with this triangle, kind of give you an overview, and we'll work with a few other shapes here. But first off, I want that to be a certain length, and if you notice as I drew it, you could see how long it was going to be. If you go down here to your properties, you can also see these lengths and angles and things like that. I don't, to be honest with you, I don't mess with these very much. They're a little bit difficult to work with. You're looking at it in a coordinate sense. I go up here to what's called Smart Dimensions, and I click on Smart Dimensions. Now what Smart Dimensions does for you is it helps you to create a segment or length depending on what you want, and it helps you to set a parameter to it. So for example, let's do this. Let's click on this top line and drag up, and there's your parameter, and this one it's a length. So I'm going to click on it again when I have it set, and I'm going to set it to 5. And there you go. Now let's try that again with this leg of our triangle going straight down. So let's select this leg, one click, and you pull it out of the way so you can see it, and you click again, and let's make 5 again. Now notice right now it's going off my screen a little bit. There's some things I can do to help that. I can zoom in or zoom out and re-zoom in however I want. Now this zoom in and zoom out is oriented to your cursor. So if you want to zoom in on this point, you just put your cursor over it, and I'll just zoom in. There it is. Zoom back out. I just want to kind of center it. There we go. There's also some other things we can do. It's a little, I don't want to mess too much with it right now because I don't want to throw off what we're trying to start. This is just introductory. So I've got 5 and I've got 5. Now these are set, and you would think that these angles are set too. That's not exactly or entirely true. If you know from your geometry studies, there's certain parameters in a triangle that have to be set for the whole triangle to stay the same. For example, you need either a side angle and a side, or a side, 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 so on and so forth. Well, we only have 2 parameters, so we'll need to set another one to keep this triangle from possibly shifting on us later. And there's several ones we can do here. It may look like 90, okay? But when we get into the display delete relations, which is actually right here, we won't get into that in this video. But what's going to happen is those relations will show here. Well, there's nothing at this point. So what we want to do is we want to click here on that leg, and you'll see the 5. Well, let's go and click on the other leg. So I clicked once on this leg, now I'm going to click on that leg, and now I've got an angle. And that makes sense. I picked the 2 rays, or in this case the 2 segments that comprise the angle, and now I set it. Oh, I guess there were some relations on there. See, there are my relations. So this relation is telling me that it's vertical. This relation is telling me that it's horizontal. So I do actually have that set. So believe it or not, that is set at 90. So very good. Now that sketch was over defined, so I'm good to go. I've got one side, an angle, and a side. So this triangle's set. Okay, let's look at changing these lengths real quick. Something that's actually quite simple with Smart Dimensions. Click on it. Now you'll notice it shows up down here. Your property manager will always have everything, but once again, I don't use this very much. If you double click on it, there it is, and you can change it quite fast. 6 and 6. If you want to delete this dimension, it's as simple as clicking on that dimension and hitting delete, and I can just put it right back in if I wanted to. Hit my check mark, and you're good to go. Alright, so what I want to do is I'm going to get rid of this just because I like a clean slate. Okay, it's gone. And now I'm actually going to use the drop down. Let me get that where I want it. There we go. Let's use that drop down arrow for a line. Now you'll notice there's 2 types of lines. One's called a line, one's called a center line. I use the center line for either reflections. I use it sometimes for different kind of parts, mirroring, that kind of stuff. That does not show up outside of your sketch. Those are something that are more hidden, more intended for creating a pattern and either rotating or reflecting it. So we'll stay with line there. Let's move over to circle. I've got my circle. And I've got two options. If I hit the drop down arrow, there's my two options. So I can either select it from the drop down arrow or I can select it from here. One of them is your circle where you select first. See the number 1? You select. Let me zoom in on that so you can actually see it. There we go. First, you would select the middle point, and then the little 2 says you select a point on the exterior. That's going to be your most common, but there are times when you need to create a circle within certain constraints where you may want to do 3 points on that circle. So notice the 1 being on the exterior, part of your plotted points around the radius that you select, and 2 and 3 and so on. I mainly work with this one, but there have been instances where I've had to work with this guy as well. So I'm going to stay with this guy. Let me get out of that. Very good. Okay. So I'm going to stay with that guy. I'm going to come over here, and I just want to center it on the origin. Now notice the yellow. It's going to be hard for me to show you, but the right by my eraser, that yellow box, that's a coincident relation, where now that point is in relation to the origin, and it's stuck there. Okay. So I've hooked that on. Now, once again, notice I've got a radius here, and you can see by the picture that's your radius. I've got an X and Y, and it's at the origin, so it's 0, 0. If I want to move it, okay, I can move it. It's got a relation on it, so it's not going to go anywhere, but I could do it if I didn't put that relation on it at the beginning. I can move it from here. I don't like doing that. I use Smart Dimensions a lot, so let's do that. Let's go Smart Dimensions. Let's select our circle. And let's just put it at 20 inches. Notice I didn't put a unit on it. No need to. I'm just going to drag this in. Perfect. Drag and drop. No reason to put a unit on it. This is really cool. I do want to show you this. Let's say you want something in millimeter for some reason. Maybe there's a specific hole. Sim motor, press shafts. We have to use a millimeter. So you can actually, you don't have to change the unit. You can type 34 millimeter. You don't have to go down to the bottom and change your unit. You just put it on your drawing there, and you hit enter, and it actually converts it to inch. Very cool stuff that SolidWorks offers. So let's go back to 20 inches. So there's my circle. I can change that around if I want to. No need to right now. If I don't like it, I can cut it. But let's try to converge two things together now. Let's look at a line. And let's take that line from perfectly above that circle. So from there, go right through the origin. See the mates or the relations that are appearing there. The relation here, it's at my eraser. The end of my eraser means coincident and vertical. And I'll go through the bottom. Snap twos, I love them. And notice I'm still dragging. I don't want it, so I'm just going to double click and it'll go away. So now I've got a circle with a line drawn directly through the middle. Something that's really nice is SolidWorks has now created this into two hemispheres. It no longer treats it as a larger circle in terms of what I'm about to do, trim entities. Now you'd think if I trimmed through this circle, if I drug through this circle, that it would delete the whole thing. Well, SolidWorks is now treating it as almost, in essence, two separate parts put together. Boom. Now I've just erased only 1/2. Now the radius still holds true, and this line is still centered. All your relations is going to still stay on that middle, are going to stay true as well. And that could be cool. Now notice I've created my hemisphere. Pretty neat stuff. Let's do undo. Get that back. Undo's located up here in the top. And now I've got my drawing. So let's go and let's experiment with one more shape for right now. I like it clean. And let's go to our corner rectangle. Now the corner rectangle has several different options. This is the one, actually use this one more often. Let me zoom in on that for you. There we go. Okay, so there are your options for this one. We've got the corner to corner. Notice the 1 and the 2 telling you what point would be first, what one would be second. You got your middle one. That's the one I use a lot more often. I like to have things centered on certain areas, but I use this one as well. Once again, just like with the circle, you got an option of 3 points, which could be very nice as well. 3 points with a center, and then your kind of parallelogram there as well that you could create. Okay, so let's do the center right now since we've been making everything on the origin. Notice the relations popping up. See that by my eraser tip down there on the pencil? That's a horizontal relation. That means whatever I create will stay on that horizontal line created with that origin, which is the x-axis in this case. And this will be your vertical. And notice by the eraser, I'm going to center it, or coincident, right here, and I'm going to open it up. Notice I got my diagonals in there. Outstanding. And there's my rectangle. Let's do some smart dimensions on this thing. Let's keep it a rectangle. Let's do 30 inches. And let's do 10. There you go. So I've got 30 and I've got 10. Now notice, you're going to see something right here. You see those almost like center lines? Those will not show up in your final as well. I mean, you'll see the outline is the lines that you'll work from. These are just reference lines. So we could create a triangle on it. So I'm going to go from the top left down to the bottom right. Notice I've now created a right triangle. And I could use my scissors. Like I told you, remember, once I put that line in, now it's going to treat it as two separate, almost like two right triangles put together. And I can cut right through it. And now I've got a right triangle. Notice I just cut my dimension out. So this is no longer got a dimension on it. So I can put my dimension of 30 down there. And now it is constrained, as you can say. Now, I don't know. I'm pretty sure since I cut the top part out, this is still coincident. So remember, like we were talking about with our geometry lesson, this is just a side and a side. So we want to make sure that this triangle doesn't like to mosey on us. So I just did smart dimensions again, selected this leg and this leg. Nope, they did keep it. Very good. So I kept those relations as well. Okay, so let me go back here. Just hitting undo up in the top. I've gone back to my triangle, and let me get rid of that center line, or the line I created there that went from along the diagonal. And there's my triangle. So those are the only shapes I'm going to show you at this time. Part of your homework assignment is to work with these other ones. You know, the spline, your 3-point arc, very useful. Your ellipse, your sketch fillet. That's something that we're going to use a lot in Sketch to help us out. I mean, it's real simple. If you want to create a rounded corner, I can show you right now. You just click on it, go to that corner, and there it is. You can't see it. It's kind of small, but I'm going to select all the corners, and then I'll go over here. Always go to your properties managers when in doubt, and you can use this here. I just typically use it, and notice as I increase it, you can see the radius of that fillet. You hit check, and now look, you got a nice rounded what was a rectangle. Check, and I'm out of it. Okay, very good. So those are just some things to get you started. Homework assignments, go through, play with some of these guys, play with smart dimensions. You can see some other dimensions, see what those do. We'll introduce those as well. So as far as this lesson, what we went through is from here over to the left. We went through the sketch, which I'm about to exit before I go. We went through smart dimensions, and we kind of went through some of these, kind of get your feet wet, play around with those, and trim entities. And then we'll start to go over these in our next lesson as well. So thank you for your time. Before we go, we want to exit this sketch so we can say that we're done with it. We'll add a few more sketches coming up, but right now we've only done one sketch. You can see it right here in my feature manager. And I want to exit it. So I'm done editing it. So I'll hit my exit sketch. And there it is. Now let's say that you're not done editing it. For some reason you exit out of it too soon. Not a problem. You just go right over here in your features manager to whatever sketch you want to edit. You right click on it, and you just go up and hit edit sketch. So let me show you that again. you'll come over here, you'll select on whatever sketch. So let's say you made multiple sketches, perfectly fine. You go over here to your sketch, you right click on it, and you hit edit sketch. And there you go, you're right back in there, ready to work on again. Don't forget about the view where you can go your horizontal, normal too, and then that way you can see it. Now there's your filleted edge, there's your all the other parameters you can edit. So I hope you enjoyed this, and stay tuned for our next episode.